the audience.
To yet another webinar on the topic how to find the right mentor and who actually is a good mentor for you. And before we actually jump onto the part of finding the right mentor or to be able to find someone who can guide you to do something good with your life, I think it's very much important for us to understand why do we need a mentor. Because very often in the world we're living in, we're living in the age of information, and people often have this tendency to believe that we are living in this era of Google, basically, in the era of uh, endless information, endless data, endless information of everything. And in such informations, in such the age, in such an age of information, it's very easy to actually find out and look for anything, to be able to find the answers of literally anything. And in that case, why do we actually need a mentor? So in this webinar, we're talking about why do we actually need a mentor, and then how and what a right mentor actually means. So I'm really glad that you all are here right now, and then we'll be talking all about mentorship and how you can be a good mentee and a good mentor. So first thing first, let's talk about the importance of finding a mentor and why do we actually need a mentor. So I'll tell you a bit of a scientific definition of a scientific reason behind finding a mentor. Because like I told you before that we often tend to believe that we have an endless amount of data, endless amount of information in front of us in the form of Google, in the form of social media, in the form of anything else. And in that case, finding a mentor, just having a mentor for ourselves doesn't really sound like a really good idea. But we actually need a mentor because it is very much dependent on how our brain functions. So in that case, I think it's very much important for you to understand the science behind how our brain is actually working, and then to find out why and how having a mentor can actually help you and help you improve your life in such a significant manner. So the first thing first, I'll tell you a bit about how our brain functions. The first thing is understanding the difference between what a logical brain is and what an emotional brain is. So our brain is basically divided into two different parts. First is the logical brain, other is the emotional brain. So the way our brain works, our brain actually has a way of functioning. I mean, the logical brain works in consideration with the emotional brain as well. But very often, at certain times of our lives, our emotional brain ends up dominating the complete part of our brain, complete part of our thinking. And at that point, at that stage, our logical brain shuts off. That means you might have felt that by yourself as well, that whenever you're feeling angry, for that matter, whenever you feel angry at any particular person, or when you're feeling anxious about any particular thing, you might have thought that I cannot just think of anything. I didn't want to shout at them, I didn't want to scold them, but it happened at an impulse. It happened just because couldn't even control my anger. I couldn't even control what I was saying to that particular person. Why did that happen? And even after 5 minutes of shouting at someone, even after 5 minutes of getting angry at someone, we realize our mistake. We realize that we shouldn't have shouted. So was that your fault or was that your brain's fault? So it turns out that it is actually our brain's way of functioning. That means whenever we are stuck in an emotional response, our emotional brain takes charge over our logical brain. And when that happens, whenever our emotional brain takes charge over our logical brain, that means our logical and thinking capabilities take a beat. We cannot just think straight. We cannot just make good decisions. We cannot just do things that feels right at that particular point. And that is why it's so much important to understand that our emotional brain is often taking charge of what we want to do with our lives. That means most of the decisions we make, most of the goals we pursue, and most of the things we do in life are very much emotionally driven. And when those things are emotionally driven, that means that we are always stuck in that zone of making the same mistakes over and over again, repeating the same mistakes over and over again, and not being able to get out of them. So it's very much important for us to be able to understand that, okay, this is why we actually need a mentor. Because a mentor can actually help you understand those mistakes. A mentor can actually help you understand and to be able to guide you to make better decisions in life. And how is that? You might be thinking at this particular point, how did a mentor come in between? So I'll tell you about how did a mentor come in between here. Because I think this is another thing that a lot of us experience, a lot of us face as well. That I think everyone in this world is very good at giving advices. We all are very good at giving advices, and when it comes to giving advices to our friends, to our families, and to anyone in this world, any other person in this world, we give some really amazing advices. But when it comes to actually implementing those advices on ourselves, all of us fail. That means whenever it comes to actually working out advices, to be able to understand the advices that we're thinking about ourselves, and then use and implement those advices onto ourselves, most of us have a hard time doing that. Why is that? Because even in that stage, when we are stuck in a problem, when we are stuck with that art of decision making, when we are stuck about what to do or what not to do, our brain is emotionally charged. That means if our brain is emotionally charged, we cannot think straight, we cannot make the right decisions, and hence we have a lot of trouble actually making the right decision. And this is where the mentor comes in. This is where a good mentor comes in. He would be able to guide you through it. And you are actually a good mentor by yourself. I mean, thinking about it for an ideal case, when you're giving advices to a friend, when you're giving advices to family or a partner, for anyone for that matter, you are actually being a mentor as well, because you are guiding them through all the logical consequences. You are guiding them through making all the right decisions, and you are just being a mentor by yourself in that particular situation. But when it comes to implementing that decision onto yourself, you have a hard time doing that. So your mentor would actually help you to be able to make right decisions for yourself as well. Because what was actually happening when you're giving advices to others, you were able to see their story, you were able to see their life story from a third person's perspective. And so when you are able to see things from a third person perspective, you wouldn't have any emotional reaction towards it, and then you'll be able to give some good advices. So when it comes to actually finding a mentor, to be able to have someone to guide you to make a good decision or to just do good things with your life, it often comes along with the fact that they would guide you through their years of experience, through the years of learning, through their understanding of self and yourself, for that matter as well. And that understanding, that knowledge would help you to take and make very amazing decisions. So this is the science of why you actually need a mentor. Because no matter how smart we are, no matter how intelligent we are, and no matter how amazing we are, the decisions that we take for ourselves, the decisions that we think about ourselves, are very much emotionally driven. And those decisions could turn out to be emotionally biased, and they might not turn out to be the right one. And hence, we always need a suggestion, we always need an advice from an expert who can guide us towards making good decisions in life. And this is why we all need a mentor in life. And this is why we all need a mentor. This is why the importance of mentor actually comes in. Now we have to talk about how to actually find a right mentor, and what is the actual skill set of a good mentor. And so talking about the skill set of a good mentor, we must understand that how and what is the role that a mentor basically plays. So the role of a basic mentor, the role of a mentor actually starts and begins with helping you guiding you towards making the right decisions, setting goals for yourself. Because when we talk about goals, I think we are again, when we are working on goals on our front, from our own front, we often make very long term goals. We often end up making some goals for ourselves that are a bit more unrealistic, and then at the end point of it, we have a hard time actually chasing those goals. So for example, we often end up making goals like, I want to become rich. So that could be goals for a lot of people. There people have goals like, I want to become rich. So for a normal person like you want to become rich. That's a really good thing, that you want to become rich, you want to become successful. But then there's a mistake with how you're actually chasing that goal. There's a small problem with how you're actually pursuing that goal. And that mentor can actually guide you towards making the right goals, towards setting up the right goals. And I'll give you a very small example. I'll give you a small hint about what you can and how you can actually make the right goal. So any goal that we actually make, those goals actually have to be smart. That means, and there's an acronym for SMART. That means that S means for specific, M means for measurable, A means for attainable, R means for reasonable, and T means for timely. That means any goal that you make in life, that has to be a SMART goal. And if those goals are not smart, you would have a hard time chasing that, and you would have a hard time achieving that. I'll give you a very small example about it. The first example is the same thing that I told you before about earning a lot of money, about being really rich. So a lot of people, I think, I've not come across a single person this world who says that I don't want to become rich, I don't want to become famous, I don't want to achieve a lot of things in life. No one says that. But very few of them actually become rich. Very few of them actually become successful. What is the difference between that? What is the difference between those kind of people and the people who actually become successful in their lives? There's a reason. The difference lies in the way they are pursuing the goals. Because when you say that I want to become rich, that goal is not actually specific. You haven't mentioned how rich you want to become. Do you want to earn 1 lakh rupees, 2 lakh rupees, $2 lakh, $5 lakh, $10 lakh? You haven't mentioned that to yourself. That means until unless you have mentioned that to yourself, how would you even accomplish that? So the first rule that I mentioned about SMART goal is that specific. The goal has to be specific. And until unless your goal is not specific, you wouldn't be able to understand that and work upon it. Second thing is measurable. That means after you achieve that goal, you'll be able to understand and you'll be able to make a decision that, okay, I have finally achieved that goal. So, for example, if my goal is to earn 50,000 rupees in this month, for that matter, let's say, my goal is to earn 50,000 rupees this month. So at the end of this month, I should have 50,000 rupees in my hand, and then only I can say that I have accomplished my goal. And if I don't have 50,000 rupees in my hand, that means I have not accomplished my goal. So that would be a clear distinction between achieving that goal and not achieving that goal. So we really need a clear and crisp answer about what we are trying to achieve. Again, the third part about is specific, measurable, attainable. It must be something that should be attainable by that particular point. Now, a lot of people often end up making a lot of unrealistic goals. And when you talk about unrealistic goals, it becomes really hard to actually chase that, to be able to achieve that. So that's why it's important. So that it's important first to be able to make realistic goals. And how do we actually make realistic goals? How do we know what's our reach? How do we know what are the purpose of our lives? How do we actually know that what actually lies in our limit? And this is where again the mentor comes in. A mentor would be able to understand you better. A mentor would be able to know you better, and then they can guide you towards making the right goals for yourself, rather than pushing you into unconventional boundaries, rather than pushing you into unrealistic goal patterns. So because if you're making a goal for yourself, if you're working on something all by yourself, you will always have a hard time trying to understand and trying to figure out all the formalities behind it. But if you have someone who's always there to guide you, who's always there to tell and commit your mistakes, who's always there to correct your mistakes, then you'll always be able to reach that particular destination in a very fast span of time. Or else, of course, you might reach there all by yourself as well. But just imagine if you have, let's say you have traveled from part A of the city to part B of the city, and this is a very new city. This is a very new city to you, and you've just moved in the city a couple of days back. Now, if I tell you to move from one part of the city to another part of city without Google Maps, would that be easy for you? I'm sure you will have to ask a lot of people. You will have to go into some wrong roads as well. You will have to roam here and there, and then finally you will be able to reach there after wasting so lot of time. But if you had Google Maps for yourself, you would be able to check in that place for yourself, and then you'd be able to reach that particular point B in no span of time, because that would be a very easy way to deal with that particular moment. So that's what a mentor does as well. They can guide you towards making the right decision. They can guide you towards making an understanding what is right for you, what is wrong for you, and then always stay with you in the journey, and then able to correct your mistakes, to be able to understand your mistakes, to be able to understand the pace at which you're running and walking, because everyone has their own pace. And very often, if we try to push ourselves, if we try to push our limits, that might actually work against our favor. So it's important that the mentor actually understands you, the mentor actually helps you achieve that goal in a realistic manner and helps you step up in the journey of life. So that's what a mentor does, is to be able to understand you, to be able to push you into constantly making efforts and constantly making growth in life. So this is why we actually need a mentor. So another thing that a mentor can actually help you is to be always help you and push you towards having some amount of constant growth. So let's say if you're stuck in this particular part of life, you're at this particular point of life, and you want to be here, you want to get there by let's say 2 years. Now, the ideal way of moving from this part to this part by the end of 2 years would be to move like this, slowly, you have to get there, right? But very often, if you start doing a lot of mistakes, we start making a lot of mistakes, we start failing a lot, if we start having troubles with what we're doing and how we're doing things, in that case we might actually move in this manner, and it might take more than 2 or 3 or 4 years to actually get to this particular point, because we don't actually know the ways towards reaching this particular position, and then it would be really hard to be able to reach there in such a span of time. A mentor would be able to guide you, to tell you that okay, this is something that you're making a mistake, and he would be always there to tell you that you're making the same mistake again, you're constantly repeating that mistake. So that guidance, that understanding from your mentor would actually help you to work on that particular part, to be able to discuss about the shortcomings, to be able to push you when you are doing good, to be able to congratulate you when you're actually doing a really good job, and to be able to push you when you're not feeling really good, when you're feeling low. So that would always serve as an act of motivation, that would always serve as an act of direction. So when you have a direction in your mind, when you have a clear purpose in your mind, you would always feel easier to walk in that direction. When you are lacking purpose, when you're lacking vision in life, you'd always feel that you're getting lost, you're just roaming directionless. So this is what a mentor can actually give you, that he can give you direction, they can give you direction, and they can give you a clear sense of purpose. Another very important thing that a mentor can give you is by helping you make the right habits. Now, I talk about this a lot of times. I talk about this a very lot of times, that we are humans are actually all creatures of habit. That means we everything we do in life, all of those are dependent on the habits we have. And I'll give you a very small example that when we wake up in the morning, we let's say when we wake up in the morning at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. in the morning. Now, in that case, when we wake up at 7 a.m. in the morning, we have a lot of time to actually deal with our day. We have a lot of time to work on the things that we really want in that particular day. Now, if a person wakes up at 12 a.m. or 12 p.m. or 1 p.m. for that matter, wakes up very late, they wake up very late. In that case, the time span that they have for the entire day actually reduces a lot. In that case, they might want to achieve a lot of things, but they often have a hard time actually achieving that, because they one of their habits, that they're staying up late and then they're waking up late, is actually pushing them into being non-productive. That means that one single habit of them waking up, staying up late in the night, is actually pushing them into being non-productive, is actually pushing them into feeling demotivated, is actually pushing them into feeling that their life is miserable. So a very small habit can have such an important judgment, can have a very important sense of direction into a head. That means it's very much important to understand that all the habits that we have, they play a very crucial role in our survival. They play a very crucial role in how we actually see ourselves. So a mentor can actually guide you into making the right habits, into making into understanding your bad habits as well, into understanding that why are you getting stuck in such addictive habits, into habits that are actually pulling you back, and then pushing you towards making the right habits by constantly giving you directions, by constantly telling you about the whereabouts and how to go about it. So a mentor can actually help you and make some really good habits, and that would be a great way to actually live your life with a clear purpose of mind. So these are some of the things, what a mentor can actually give you. And before we just end this session, let me talk a bit about how can you become the right mentee, and what can you expect from a right mentor. So if you're a mentee and if you're looking for a mentor, there are a few things that you must keep in mind. There are a few pointers that you must always keep in mind, that if you want to become a good mentee, if you want to actually make the most out of becoming a mentee, there are a few things that you should actually keep in mind. The first thing is that you must be open minded. That means you must be clearly open minded about whatever the person is saying. Be open minded towards their judgment, be open minded towards what they are saying you, what they are advising, and what are the suggestions they are trying to give you. So because if you don't have an open mind, you'd always end up criticizing that particular person, you would always end up criticizing your mentor, and you'd always end up believing that you're not doing me any good. Having an open mind would actually help you towards seeing all the things with better clarity, better purpose, and better sense. So having an open mind is a very, very important skill set that you must always have. The second thing that we and mentee should have should be that they must be reluctant to grow. That means that a mentee should have a clear purpose in their mind, and that should be guided by the mentor, but they should be reluctant to grow in their own life. They should be reluctant to know that I am constantly moving ahead in life, and I should be constantly moving ahead in life, and I should be achieving this or that. And that clear purpose, that clear direction, is very much important for you to actually succeed. Third thing that a mentee should have should be the ability to take criticism in a positive manner. Because when you have a mentor, there would be certain times in life when they would want to criticize you, and they would want to point out the mistakes that you might be doing, so that you're able to correct them, so that you're able to grow through them. And there would be times when you'll be getting some good points as well, but there would be times when you're getting bad points as well. And then you should be able to take all the negative, all the criticism in a very positive manner, because those pointers would actually help you grow in a much better manner. Because we already have a good points, but when we understand the things that are pulling us back, those are the things that can actually help us grow in a very exponential manner. So those are very important parts. The fourth important part of being a mentee is that they should be able to communicate openly. That means if you have any struggles, if you have any problems, you have any way of getting the direction, you should be able to understand that. You should be able to make better judgments and be able to communicate about your own needs. So if you're able to communicate about your own needs to your mentor, they would be able to guide you in a much better manner. So that is what you should do. Be very open towards communicating to your mentor as well. And then work for your vision. That means that you must be able to understand your vision through the help of a mentor, to be able to work on your vision through some short term and long term goals. So this is what you need to do as a mentee, and that should actually help you towards actually making the most of that mentorship session. Now, if you are looking for a mentor, here are some qualities that an ideal mentor should actually have, and what you can expect from a good mentor as well. So a mentor would constantly push you towards doing really good, and they would always serve as a constant source of motivation. That means a mentor would always push you towards doing good. They would always remind you about your values. They would always remind you towards and remind you about your vision, and that would always act as a motivation for you. So a mentor would always make you feel motivated, would always make you feel excited about working on your goals. And even if you are not feeling excited, even if you're not feeling motivated, they would remind you about the goal that you're pursuing, about the vision that you're pursuing, and then they would always make you feel cheered about that. Second part is that second part about being a good mentor. Actually, the quality of a good mentor is that they should be giving some positive criticism. Now, I told you that a mentee should be able to take criticism in a positive manner, but it also depends on the mentor as well, because a mentor should be able to communicate their shortcomings or communicate about the criticism in a positive manner. Because if you talk to someone with a very harsh way of mind, a very harsh state of words, in that case anyone is bound to feel bad about it. But any criticism is given in a very positive manner, that can actually push the person into doing and making the right decisions. So it's important that a mentor, right mentor, would be able to give you some criticism in a very positive manner. The third thing is that a good mentor would actually boost the mentee for their achievements. That means they would always push you towards feeling good about your achievements and feeling good about your life. The fourth thing is that she should and they should be a bit good communicator. That means should be able to communicate with you in a very effective manner, in a very efficient manner, and then talk about your shortcomings, talk about what's going wrong, talk about what's going good, and so that they can actually change their plans, they can actually work upon the plans so that it turns out to be the best effective way of dealing with them. The last thing is that the mentor should actually be open to new ideas. Now, now that we have talked about this idea of mentor and mentorship a lot of us might be thinking that mentor is someone here and mentee is somewhere here, and this is absolutely wrong. So when I told you that why you actually need a mentor is because our brain tends to be emotional at times, and hence we are not able to make right decisions that are for ourselves. That means that you're not actually worse than your mentor. You're not actually having a less experience than your mentor. It only means that your mentor and you basically mentee are both standing in this particular position. That means your mentor should be able to learn at the same time when you're learning as well. That means with each of your experience, with each of your learning, your mentor is learning too, and your mentor is a student of life as well. That means they should be reluctant to learn. They should be reluctant to learn new things about you. They should be reluctant to learn new things about their and your life as well. So this is what good mentor actually means: to be able to understand things, to be able to guide and push you towards making the right decisions, and then doing things in a very, very effective manner. So these are certain ways, these are certain things that a good mentor definitely possesses, and that would definitely help a lot of people into choosing the right mentorship for themselves. And personally, when I talk about my personal experience as a mentor, so I am an emotional intelligence life coach, and I deal with a lot of people. I deal with a lot of clients who have a trouble understanding their emotions, who have a trouble understanding the past traumas, who have a lot of trouble understanding how to make sense of their patterns. So as a person, as a mentor, if you ask me what are the qualities that you actually learn from them, what are the qualities that you are actually possessing as a mentor? For me, I think for a mentor, it's very important. As a mentor, when I'm actually practicing counseling, when I'm practicing coaching, I actually try to emphasize a lot on listening, because when I'm able to listen well, I would be able to give them good pointers. I would be able to give them good knowledge about how they can improve themselves. And if I'm not able to listen well, if I'm not able to listen to what they have to say, I would constantly be repeating about what I have to say, and that would not be a very effective way of communication. So I think personally, I believe listening is a very important part when it comes to mentorship, both for the mentor and for the mentee as well. So personally, when I talk about emotional intelligence life coaching, I talk a lot about emotions, the science of emotions, and how we can work upon changing our patterns and working on our core beliefs. So these are certain things that I definitely work upon. And if you're looking forward to watch some of my videos or follow or watch out for more content of mine, you can definitely subscribe to my YouTube channel as well. It's by the name Shivam Now. You can search for it on YouTube at the rate Shivam Now, or on Instagram or any other social media for that matter. And you can read my 2 books as well. So this is all about it, and I hope you like this webinar, and I really hope that it turned out to be a bit worthy. It turned out to be a bit of a guiding session for you. So thank you so much for joining us.